Hello everyone and welcome back to Bitwig Studio and Music Production. This is lesson 5.59, and in this video we're going to talk about the various voicing options of this synthesizer. We'll talk about glide, we'll talk about what this legato glide means, and what this single trigger means also. So this is the last exploratory vid of the Polysynth, and hopefully after covering this you'll completely understand every single function of this synthesizer. So when we're in monophonic mode, it means we can only play one note at a time, meaning that if I play a C, and then I play a C an octave above, if I try to play these two notes together, the only note that's going to sound is the second one that I hit, meaning that there's no way I can hit both of these at exactly the same time, and so it's only going to play that most recent hit. If I just hold down one note and play on above on the keyboard, we can start to get some pretty interesting riffs and melodic combinations. We can compare that to polyphonic mode, which if we're in polyphonic mode, we probably don't want to be playing that low on the keyboard. So now if I play a C note, and I play the C an octave above, I can actually play these at the same time, and we'll be hitting both notes. So like so. All right, but I'm going to stick to monophonic mode for most of this video because a lot of these parameters are going to be a lot more useful in monophonic mode as compared to in polyphonic mode, beginning with the glide. So glide is just like a pitch swing. So when we have our pitch bend, we could glide between two notes if we wanted to, but this is going to do it for us. And so what we can set is how long that glide is going to take. When it's set to 0, there is no glide. Let's put it up to something like 30 or 40 milliseconds. And now listen to what happens as I play between two notes. And if that's not noticeable enough, I can crank it all the way up to 1 second. Like so. And this is very, very useful in a lot of bass patches. You'll hear this all the time. It can add a little bit extra like funk to your sounds because you get that little glide motion that people can do with like real instruments, things like saxophones. But let's talk about these other modes. We have here a legato glide only, meaning that only if we play notes on top of each other will the glide be applied. So right now I'm playing. And these notes are not crossing over. But if I do start to cross my notes, aka I'm playing legato, I'm not leaving any space in between my notes, we'll then hear the glide as opposed to. And you can feel free to experiment with that further. Last but not least, we have here single trigger, okay? And this is saying to not re-trigger any envelopes when legato is played. What does that mean? It means that if I have something like this filter envelope going, if I play legato, we are not going to re-trigger that filter envelope. We're going to stick to where we are. So if it plays all the way through, I play another note, we are not going to re-trigger that envelope. We're going to pick up where we're at. Now we do have key tracking enabled, so it will sound brighter, but we're not re-triggering the whole envelope. We are still implementing some glide. We could take that off. Now compare that to this. So every time I play notes, even if it is in legato mode, we are re-triggering that envelope. So this is a matter of taste, and with some bass patches, you're definitely going to find that you'll want this on, and sometimes you won't. It's just a matter of the sound you're using. Now, things like this will work when we're outside of mono mode, but you have to be really, really careful because it can oftentimes just cut off your sound completely. So if I'm playing a note, I'm trying to hit another note, but it's not letting me do anything because when we're outside of monophonic mode, we can't really play polyphonically, right? Like it doesn't make sense. So if single trigger is enabled and we're playing outside of monophonic, really no legato is occurring. We're not transitioning from one note to another. We're just playing possibly two notes together. So you have to be really careful. I'll explain it again. I'm hitting my note and then I'm going to try to start hitting another one. But nothing is happening. And now if you release that note while you're hitting another one, we might just go to silence. So you can see that I'm still trying to trigger a note, but we're currently playing nothing. So this is something that you're only going to want enabled when you're in monophonic mode. You can use glide polyphonically, but sometimes it will sound kind of awkward. So I tend to not use glide when I'm playing chords, but you know, it's up to you. You can do it if you want. And again, the legato mode here really isn't going to do a whole lot for you unless you're in monophonic mode. Okay, so I hope this has been helpful for you guys. Feel free to play around with these different settings. The way I look at it is this: when you're playing chords, you're playing something very complex in the frequency spectrum already. Adding in additional glide and single trigger and all of that might be just too much for your sounds. But when you're playing monophonically, these little options are great to adding intrigue and variety to whatever patch you're working on. So play around with those. Hope this has been helpful for you guys, and you'll hear from me again in the next lesson. Take care.